Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
Rolling Stone did an interview with J.J. Abrams, the writer and director of The Force Awakens and the final episodic film in the Skywalker saga, The Rise of Skywalker. And they talk about Bob Iger's book with J.J. Abrams and his reaction to George Lucas's dissatisfaction about The Force Awakens. And they say he also reveals George Lucas's dissatisfaction with The Force Awakens. How did you feel about that then, and how do you feel about it now? And J.J. Abrams responds with, I've only had gratitude for George. It's probably a complicated thing for him. To decide you're going to sell this thing that you've created, that was your baby. To anyone, that must be more complicated than signing a check and smiling about it. But he's been incredibly gracious, and he's been super generous. He came over, we had a meeting when we first started working on this new movie, talked through a ton of different ideas and stories, and heard from him what was important. And we've done nothing but try to adhere to some fundamental aspects of the story. It wasn't a difficult thing to try and do, and again, he was really gracious. So I'm often grateful. Do I wish that The Force Awakens had been his favorite movie of all time? Yes, I only wanted to do well by him. I would say that I have nothing but profound respect for the guy, and still am truly. Even now more so, working on these movies in awe of what he created. And so I think a lot of people try to give JJ crap for not doing what George Lucas wanted him to do with the story treatments of The Force Awakens, or episodes 7, 8, 9, the sequel trilogy specifically. That wasn't a decision that was made by J.J. Abrams. That was a decision made by Bob Iger, Alan Horn, Alan Beverman. A lot of people at Lucasfilm didn't have too much say over that. So when that decision was made, it was before J.J. got even involved. And don't forget, J.J. went to George Lucas both times when making his films. Before episode 7 came out, before he started writing the script for that, he went to George Lucas for advice, for some story ideas, and George was there to consult a little bit in the beginning, and then he did the same thing for episode 9. It is nice to hear that JJ at least is trying to adhere to a little bit of the story that George Lucas is going for. I know he said in a recent interview that they talked about the story of episode 9 and George Lucas brought up midichlorians. Fucking goddamn it, George. What's up with you and the midichlorians, man? And I like that JJ does try to adhere to the story that George Lucas is going for, the destiny of your main character like Rey. He even acknowledges some of the criticism about Rey. In this one part, they say that a lot of people were criticizing Rey, that she's basically what we say would be a Mary Sue, even for a Jedi. She learns everything's faster than, say, Luke Skywalker ever did. And J.J. Abrams says, yeah, spooky, right? He smiles. It's a fair point. It's not an accident. So it's clear that he's trying to do the Luke Skywalker thing of you have a certain destiny in the Star Wars universe that you need to follow. And with Rey specifically, there's more character to her that he's going to explore in episode 9. That's pretty interesting. I guess. I'm not entirely interested in the character of Rey at all, if we're being honest, but still, I guess people who like Rey would be interested in that and where her backstory comes from. I feel like The Last Jedi kind of took that away from me. But on to the topic of George Lucas and the criticism he had for The Force Awakens. It's right of JJ to say that it's a personal thing. George Lucas sweat, bled, cried for Star Wars. I don't know about the bleeding part, but he did a lot of stuff for Star Wars to get it off the ground. In the 70s, when he was making A New Hope, it was a disaster. When it came to making Empire Strikes Back, he wasn't even really on set probably 95% of the time because he had to go deal with the producing side of things and the licenses and everything. He had a lot of baggage that came with Star Wars, and he left directing for like 22 years after the original Star Wars film because of how much stress that came with it, until he returned to direct and write the entire prequel trilogy. Why he decided to do all 3 is beyond me, but still, he came back for that. I mean, this is the Lucas legacy, and like he said to Bob Iger before he sold the franchise, when George Lucas passes away, what's going to be on his obituary is Star Wars creator George Lucas. This is his legacy, and he did sell it to Disney, and that is hard. But J.J. Abrams isn't Disney. He's a filmmaker, and he's someone who admires George Lucas and admires specifically Steven Spielberg. He's supposed to be Spielberg 2.0. I don't think he necessarily is. He's kind of like the protege to him, but doesn't mean he's at the same level of skill, in my opinion. But that's besides the point. JJ's a filmmaker, and like any other filmmaker in the world, they're going to look at someone like George Lucas and admire what he's done and respect his creativity and storytelling, his revolutionary mindset when it comes to making films, and his innovative mindset that's been involved with the Star Wars saga. And so I like hearing JJ accepting some of the criticisms that he's got from George. He even accepts the criticism about how this was basically exactly what A New Hope was or the original trilogy feel. He even says in this interview that it's a fair criticism. I like that about JJ. He's not doing the Rian Johnson routine of saying, oh, those are just trolls on the internet or whatnot. So, kind of not saying it's whatever if you don't like it, but just saying if you disagree with the decisions I made in The Force Awakens, that's fair. I like that. I mean, I can't knock a guy for accepting criticism. I mean, really, can I? What else do you want me to say? Fuck you, JJ? I mean, I like JJ as a filmmaker. I don't think he's the greatest in the world in terms of writing. I think he's a great director. I don't know why he thinks he's such a great writer, but he's a pretty solid director, and I'm interested to see what he's going to do with The Rise of Skywalker, writing alongside Chris Terrio, and what elements of the George Lucas mindset they bring in for The Rise of Skywalker, because I know they're not going to use the midichlorian thing that George Lucas probably wanted them to do, but I do know that he approached George Lucas for guidance, advice, some story ideas to finish the final episodic film in the Skywalker saga, and that's something you have to respect. I mean, really, would you rather him approach George Lucas for advice on this or not? I mean, you can't knock a guy for doing exactly what I think we all would do. If I was getting the director chair for a Star Wars film, the first thing I would do would be like, hey, can someone give me the George Lucas number so I can sit down and plan this out with him, because he would be the guy I'd call first for advice. After that, I'd call Lawrence Kasdan to say, hey, can you co-write this bitch for me, because I don't think I can write it. But still, I want to hear what you guys think about JJ and his response to the criticism George Lucas had for The Force Awakens. I think JJ took it like a champ. I think he's being a nice guy about the whole situation. I don't think he's saying anything wrong here. I think this was a solid interview for him, and I think he's saying all the right things. I'm excited to see what he does with The Rise of Skywalker, even though I'm really nervous that they might mess this one up too. The past two have been... one was a hit, The Force Awakens. I enjoyed for what it was. It got me excited for the Episode 8. Episode 8, though, oh boy, I mean, my god, what a topic to talk about. Episode 9, though, maybe this is going to be our modern-day Revenge of the Sith, where we can look back at it and say, hey, where was that the last two films? But I don't know. Tell me your thoughts below. What do you guys think about J.J. Abrams and his response in this interview? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all next time, and may the Force be with you, always.